If you look up who the least played killers are in Dead by Daylight, it's the twins in at number 1, the HAG at number 2, and hackers playing Dwight as a killer at number 3. That said, twins mains really love their play style. It's undeniably very unique and innovative, but the twins have a very low kill rate, so it makes sense why she's picked so rarely. However, when it comes to HAG, she has one of the highest kill rates in the entire game, so why is her pick rate so bad?
She's boring.
In my opinion, this is because she has inherently the worst, most outdated, and power crept design of any killer in DBD. There are so many fundamental—
Wow! Just sitting at the hook and doing nothing is freaking boring! Wow! Who would have thought just sitting at the hook the entire game was boring gameplay? Who actually would have thunk that just sitting at the hook doing nothing would not be invigorating gameplay? Who would have figured that out? What kind of Einstein would have foreseen that? Drawing traps around hook is also very boring. Yeah, that's right. It's just like you just draw triangles and hang out. Like there's no chase. You just draw triangles and then let the game play itself. It is literally the most unenticing gameplay in the game. Like HAG's gameplay is removing gameplay. She's like typically what would be considered like anti-meta, right? Like she's like anti-meta. That would be like her archetype, right? She's anti-meta. She does everything the opposite of every other killer does. But like she ends up being just in a complete absence of gameplay, period. Like she just like it's literally just removing gameplay, and what's left is just, yeah, I just sit around and hang out, which is not fun. Who would have thought?
Problems laced into her kit that it is basically impossible to fix her without a proper rework of her abilities and add-ons. So in this video, we're going to be discussing why she is so awful to not only play against, but to play as well. In addition, I'll be creating a total HAG rework that stays true to the original concept of the character, but addresses all of the outdated elements of her current design. Now, for all of the HAG mains out there, I apologize in advance.
Don't apologize.
Sure you are completely normal, functional members of society, and I don't mean to trigger you. I really hope by the end of this video, this rework makes you excited and you're on board with the changes. To start, let's talk about the most glaring issues with HAG's design. She is basically limited to only existing on a certain portion of a map, and there's a few reasons for that. She's incredibly slow, so she pretty much has to rely on her traps to get hits. She essentially has zero chase power or potential, and because she's so slow, it takes her way too long to move around the map and place traps everywhere. Add that to the fact that in her base kit, her effective teleport range is extremely short, so even if a distant trap is triggered, she literally can't teleport to it. This is why HAG is possibly the most immobile killer in the game, depending on how you look at it.
That's a good way to put it.
Obviously,
immobile.
This creates awful gameplay, most notable being 3-gen strategies and camping. You may have heard content creators use the term HAG's web or minefield in the past, because this is a very accurate way to look at her power. Good HAG players like to create a condensed cluster of traps that effectively lock down a portion of a map.
And the problem with that, and you'll probably talk about this, is like the problem with that is you start punishing survivors for making good decisions. And that's really lame, I think. When you start punishing survivors for making good decisions, it starts feeling awful to play against. Because you know, it's a good thing to go and get the save, and even if you're healthy, like you go in and get the save against her and you just enter like 3 traps and you get hit. Should have had a flashlight forehead. And if you crouch the whole way, if you're not on comms, that person may come off hook and then run into a trap. And it's like you're doing the right thing, but you're being punished, and that just feels like garbage. It just feels bad.
HAG's web, or more specifically her area of control, she's very oppressive, and the deeper into the web a survivor is, the more difficult it is for them to escape or for their teammates to help them escape. In an ideal HAG match, she has 3 gens and a hooked survivor surrounded by a minefield of her traps. This is pretty much the definitive high-level HAG playstyle. Indoor maps work best for her because there's a lot of narrow pathways, and it's much easier to predict survivor movement.
New RPD.
That said, for the majority of players on both sides, not all, this gameplay is boring, stale, and let's be honest, not very rewarding. Add to that the counter to HAG is basically to bully her. Survivors need to constantly trigger her minefield when it's most inconvenient for her, trigger traps out of the range of her teleport hit, and win the war of attrition on Gen.
The problem with this is a lot of this requires comms. A lot of this requires communication. A lot of this requires you to be in communication with people. And obviously, a lot of people that you play with, you'll be playing solo queue, you might be playing in a duo, but like more often than not, you're not playing in a 4-man with comms. That's not realistically something you can bring to every game and just hope you're prepared for this. And the fact that there is no way to communicate means that like there's no way to do what he's talking about here, which is just be smart and trigger the traps when she can't, you know, go to them. Because that requires communication and teamwork, which is not a thing if you're solo queue or even like duoing, you know? Like that's just not a thing.
Gens. So although I think it's cool that defeating HAG requires teamwork, it's undeniable that a HAG match is largely based around very frustrating gameplay. Who it's frustrating for is dependent on who's losing the match and who's winning, and I strongly disagree with the notion that this is somehow necessary. Every killer should be as fun as possible for both sides. So in order to fix HAG, we need to address her base kit issues, starting with simple changes. Starting with the simple changes, she would no longer have any range limit on how far she could teleport to a trap. This would eliminate her restrictions and allow her to play on an entire map no matter what size it is. Her base trap setting speed would be increased by 25%, and her base movement speed would be increased from 110% up to 115%.
Oh no, I don't like these.
Which is the normal speed that most killers
What are we taking away though?
DVD. However, her normal teleport traps that she has now would be removed and replaced with signs. She also would no longer be able to place these signs within 20 meters of a hooked survivor, similar to other modern killers like Dredge and the Artist.
Thank God.
This would significantly reduce her reliance on camping and tunneling. To make up for this, HAG would now have 3 different base kit sign types that she could swap between by tapping the power button. These new signs would allow her to set up really high level combos and control the map in a way that would require much more strategy.
I was just gonna say right now, I am not a fan of the 115. I know his main idea was like, well, if we make her 115, she can be a chase killer instead of having to like camp a lot. But also, unless you fundamentally change the way traps work, which I guess he's about to talk into like the changes, but like, if 115 and still having traps is, unless you fundamentally change the way traps work, this will suck because now she could chase you normally and put a trap down super quickly and just like win the chase super easily. You're basically making like a almost Artist all over again. It's like you're making Artist all over again. You're making Turbo Artist. Like, holy moly, that's not a smart idea.
Still have a total currency pool of 10 traps that she could place at one time. Her most common trap type would be the Wicca sign. This would work very similar to HAG's current teleport trap, but with key differences. Now when a survivor activates the trap, the HAG gets a notification, but she cannot just macro the teleport button to immediately teleport. Sort of like with the Mint Rag add-on, she will now need to manually look to the trap to teleport to it. However, once she teleports to the trap, she'll move at 172% movement speed for 2 seconds.
What? What did this man just say to me? What did this man just say to me? What did this man just say to me? Did he say HAG teleports to the trap and moves at 172% speed? He said what now? He said what now? He said, I hope it when HAG teleports to a trap, she moves at 172% speed? Hello?
Which for reference is nearly identical to Sadako's movement speed boost coming out of a TV with the broken fingernails add-on. This would give the survivor a short—
But you can't put the TVs wherever the heck you want! You can put the traps wherever the heck you want! Yes, that makes sense for Sadako's televisions because Sadako's televisions are static spawns that she can't affect and often aren't even turned on because she's already teleported through them. So they are a resource that she doesn't have control over. So the bloody fingernails are there to help her because she can't decide where they go. You can decide where each of these freaking go.
Window to try and counter the teleport while also keeping the risk factor for survivors who activate her traps out of range on purpose to waste her time. Her second sign would be the Ankh sign, which would act somewhat similar to a bear trap from the Trapper. When a
exactly, Oren. So a trap being triggered by a survivor means that they're already right there. So what you're doing by giving her 100%, 72% movement speed coming out of a trap means that there's quite literally nothing you can do. Quite literally nothing. You are already like almost entirely screwed in that situation anyway, but we're just gonna make it worse and just give her 172% movement speed. Let's go. Let's just make her super strong.
On one of these traps, a muddy hand would come out of the ground and hold the survivor's leg in place. Just like a bear trap, they can try to free themselves or have a teammate rescue them. Unlike a bear trap though, this trap would not injure the survivor immediately, and survivors could not be grabbed from full health if the hag hits them while they're grabbed by a muddy hand. Her third base kit sign would be the...
How is this okay, so this is supposed to be making her more fun? This just sounds like this is making her the best character in the game. Am I missing something? I feel dumb. Am I missing something? He said we need to make her as fun as possible. It sounds like he's just making her the best character in the game. Am I missing something? It sounds like he's just making her OP. And she's already really good. Don't get me wrong. She's already really, really good. It sounds like he's just making her like one of the strongest characters in the game. This does not sound like this fixes the issues at all.
Pentacle. This sign cannot be triggered by survivors and allows HAG to freely teleport to it.
Well, Alrin, what he said was he's like, honestly, she's not very fun to play against, so we plan to fix that. That was one of the things he said. But now all of this sounds like 20 times worse than what currently exists. So what? Hello?
Anytime. Once she teleports to it, the sign is destroyed and she must replace it in order to teleport to it again. Her ability to teleport to Pentacle signs would be on a 15-second cooldown, so she couldn't just fly between 3 gens over and over again. This sign would also come with no movement speed buff whatsoever. With these base kit reworks, HAG becomes much more of an engaging killer to play as and against.
No, not against. This is so... Am I missing something? What am I missing? This is a net buff for her entirely. There is nothing she loses here. There is no nerf. This is a net buff to her entirely. Where is the she's more fun to play against part? Where does that happen here? This is a net buff down the line to a character that's already frustrating and really good. Am I missing something? How is this better? More fun for Killer Bay, I guess. It's more fun. Hags will have more fun with it. This does not seem like it. This is not. This is a.
No longer limited to a small portion of the map and is a legitimate threat in a chase. However, her true power still comes from her signs. The player's ability to pre-plan and use their game knowledge would be very rewarded. Likewise, survivors will largely be able to
exactly. All right. The only nerf he has mentioned is that with the first trap idea that he has, that she has to physically look at it, but she has 172% movement speed coming out of it, so it doesn't matter anyway. It just literally doesn't matter. It makes up the difference. So this is just a net buff. This is just a net buff to the character. Hello? Choy's a smart dude. What the fuck is this?
Play that the original HAG used to encourage. Now, with all of that said, HAG would need a complete add-on overhaul as well, and the potential for unique add-ons would be pretty much limitless with this killer. Real quick, before we get into the add-on rework, I want to say that a lot of her add-ons will swap out.
Yeah, this is Alice. This is after him saying she's 115 now. This is all of this is in addition to becoming a 115 killer. All of this is in addition to becoming a 115 killer.
with different abilities. So for instance, if she has a green and red add-on that replaces her pentacle sign with a different ability, the red add-on will supersede the green add-on. Basically, the abilities from both add-ons will not stack, and the more rare add-on will always win, so there's no reason to use them together. However, if you use an add-on that changes the pentacle sign with the Wicca sign, they will work together, allowing you to create a lot of different combos. When it comes to add-on design approach, Michael Myers is the best example in my opinion. His add-ons completely modify his abilities, and the survivors need to figure out which add-ons he's using as quickly as possible so that
I have watched this man's videos for a really long time. Mostly like the hacker stuff. Very interesting. Choy always struck me as a very, very, very smart and intelligent human being. Just based on the videos that he's released. I feel like I am in Bizarro World. I feel like I'm not listening to the same person. Man looked at Tombstone Myers and said, "That's fine. Let's give that to Hag." That's probably not what he's gonna say, but like, I don't know how somebody could be so wrong and just not have any awareness. Because this sounds horrible. Horrible.
they can adapt and survive. It's a really fun dynamic that I love, so that's the approach I'm using with redesigning HAG's add-ons. I totally understand that some of them might be a bit too ambitious, but I don't care. We're having fun, alright? Let's get into it, starting with her brown add-ons. Rope Necklet increases the amount of signs the HAG can place by 2. Powdered Eggshell. Survivors who activate a Wicca sign are inflicted with the exhausted status effect for 20 seconds.
So you can't even dead hard. So you can't even dead hard that 172%, 115 HAG when she teleports. You can't even dead hard or sprint burst away or lithe away from a 115, 172% speed HAG.
Super strong, and it'll allow the HAG to deal with a lot of the exhaustion perks that survivors like to use to counter her traps.
That's a brown, by the way.
Mud. Survivors hit while grabbed by a muddy hand are broken for 60 seconds. I think this add-on will really lead its way into a hit and run sort of playstyle that will keep survivors from constantly healing. Bog Water. Any survivor within 16 meters of a pinnacle sign will scream when the HAG teleports to it. So if you're using your pinnacle signs to teleport between important places like generators, if there's a survivor hiding nearby, you won't have to look for them. You'll immediately know they're there if they don't have Calm Spirit. Pussy Willow Catkins. Any survivor hit shortly after triggering a Wicca sign will drop any item they are carrying on the ground.
Franklin's as a yellow. Franklin's as a yellow, by the way.
So this is sort of an add-on that's built in that replaces Franklin's Demise. It doesn't destroy the item when it falls on the ground, but it still allows the HAG to trap the item again in case they try to come back. Half Eggshells. Triggering a Wicca sign causes the following effects for its trip duration: suppresses the terror radius of the HAG, increases the fake terror radius of the mud phantasms to 24 meters. This is basically a stealth add-on that will allow the HAG to confuse people and get free hits, which will be much more viable now because she moves at normal movement speed. Dragonfly Wings. Survivors hit shortly after triggering a Wicca sign will be inflicted.
That's fine.
With the
Everybody has a mango add-on.
So I think it's just a good common add-on you can use to slow down survivor healing. Cypress Necklet increases the amount of signs the HAG can place by 3, and this can be stacked with other add-ons that increase the amount of signs that she can place in case your playstyle is wanting to revolve around really controlling the entire map and you want to set up a lot of combos all around the map. I think this is the type of add-ons you'd want to go for. Bloodied Water increases Wicca sign's trigger range by 30%. Now HAG used to have these add-ons as well, but they actually worked against you because you wanted survivors to be as close as possible to your trap when they activated them so that you could get a free hit. However, with the new Wicca sign, this will work in your favor because you'll still be able to hit them even if they trigger your trap from a further distance away.
And you says that like it's a good thing. It's already really annoying that current HAG traps are nearly unavoidable, so let's just make them even more unavoidable with this new rework. See, that's fine. It just fixes the character.
Even if it's a little bit harder. Willow Wreath. The HAG will hear faint sounds when within 32 meters of a survivor. This is basically a built-in whisper.
You just gave her whispers as agreed?
That allows you to know if a survivor is possibly watching you when you're placing down a trap. Swamp Orchid Necklet increases the amount of signs the HAG can place by 4, again going back to that playstyle. Dried Cicada, it now takes 3 additional seconds to destroy HAG signs with a flashlight.
So you're gonna take the one counterplay she has, which requires you to bring a very specific item into the game, and say, no, you're not allowed to do that either. This is straight up just like, how do we make HAG the best character in the game and has no regards for game balance? This rework is just, let's make HAG the best character in the game with no regard at all to counterplay or the fun of anybody facing her.
So if you load into a lobby and you see the survivors are bringing a bunch of flashlights, you can use this add-on to deplete their flashlights more quickly, and that way you don't have to change your entire build and use something like Franklin's Demise to deal with it. Cracked Turtle Egg increases the wick assigned's trip duration by 50%. So in case you're in an inconvenient situation, like you're hooking a survivor when somebody triggers your trap, this will still give you enough time to teleport to them afterwards. On top of that, you could combine this with something like the half eggshell add-on that will increase your stealth capabilities even more and allow you to really trick survivors. Bloodied Mud.
Keep in mind, like, Sadako and Freddy have teleports and they're like the most limited map mobility tool in the entire game. Just want to keep that in mind while we're talking about this.
HAG's ink sign will be replaced with a sign that completely destroys any item on the ground in a 4-meter radius. So this add-on will completely get rid of her snare traps altogether, but in place of that, you'll now be able to destroy items that have fallen or been placed.
The snare traps seem like the weakest ones. That's why you picked that one. Because the snare traps were like the weakest ones, it seemed like. You're going to be using the Wicca one and the teleport one the most, based on what he said so far. So he just took the weakest one, said we don't need that anymore, and put it a better effect there.
Found by survivors. You can use this with Franklin's Demise to counter survive with friends who are doing callouts and saying, hey, the HAG has Franklin's Demise, put your items down. Now you can just destroy them if you find them. And on top of that, you can also use this with her yellow add-on that makes it to where survivors drop their items when you hit them coming out of a Wicca sign. Scarred Hand. HAG's ink sign will now be replaced with mud phantasms that have collision with survivors. Grants 300% bonus blood points and deviousness. Now this add-on already existed, but it was more of a meme add-on that made the HAG weaker. However, with HAG's other base changes and the fact that she has access to other traps, this can now be a pretty powerful add-on depending on how you use it and what you combine it with.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. HAG rework and get rid of Body Blocker HAG, who is one of the more fun versions of HAG to play against. Rusty Shackles. Tripped Wicca signs do not spawn a mud phantasm. Tripped Wicca signs do not give any indication of having been tripped to survivors. So Rusty Shackles already exist, now it's just being restricted to the Wicca sign. Anybody who already plays HAG knows that this is one of her strongest add-ons, so I still think it has a place to exist unless it is possibly
but to say the character has been net buffed all the way. Like in your version of this character, you have net buffed this character to be top 3 in the game, if not outright the best. So yeah, yeah.
Now, I guess you probably have to see. Grandma's Heart. The Pentacle sign will be replaced by a sign that creates an aura up to 24-meter range, which inflicts injured survivors with a broken status effect. This effect lasts for 5 seconds after leaving the aura's range. Only 4 pentacle signs could be placed at one time. So I think this is a really cool add-on that would allow HAG players to strategically set up areas straight buffs where survivors wouldn't be allowed to heal.
You're to say that you agree, yeah.
To mind like really inconvenient like 2-story and 3-story structures where survivors can set a boon up at the top and the Killer would need to waste a lot of time going up there to destroy the boon. Now she can just place a pentacle sign somewhere around the building and make it to where it's impossible to actually heal at that boon. So outside of countering boons, you can also use this on smaller maps to effectively make a large portion of the map super inconvenient, and you can't heal on them and you'll have to go to certain places.
They've hacked everything. It feels like
it. Really strong and cool add-on. Disfigured ear. Triggering a Wicca sign causes the survivor to be deafened for 30 seconds, a status effect a lot of survivors aren't too familiar with, but it basically makes it to where you can't hear anything, and I think it would be a pretty cool add-on, especially for 30 seconds. Typically when you see deafened status effects, it's very short to the point where it almost does nothing, so 30 seconds would make this actually a significant value. Now getting into our iridescent add-ons, we have Lock of Hair. This replaces the Wicca sign with Mud Thralls. Once activated, Mud Thralls will patrol the map and attack survivors until destroyed.
They gave her zombies? They gave her zombies from Nemesis? They gave her Nemesis and zombies.
Only 2 Mud Thralls can be active at one time. So these would work very similar to Nemesis's base zombies. Yep. Now, they wouldn't have access to all of Nemesis's add-ons that make his zombies stronger, but at the same time, their hit would just immediately injure a survivor instead of infecting them, so that is stronger. And then you could use this with things like mud traps so that a hand comes out and grabs the survivor, but at the same time, they also triggered a zombie trap so the zombie comes out and gives a free hit. And I'm sure you can think of a lot of other combinations that you could set up with Mud Thralls. However, you do have to keep in mind that you're replacing your Wicca sign, which is
but you're 115. Okay? You're 115, and you have your teleport trap still. You're 115, and you still have your teleport traps and your snare traps with the zombies.
HAG's strongest trap in this rework. Her last add-on is Virgin Blood, something that is in no short supply in DBD. The Pentacle sign will now be replaced with the ability to see the aura of the survivor who stepped on the sign until they lose a health state. Now, this is of course super strong. You could get all of the survivors with permanent aura
until they lose a health state. Until they see a health state. Until they lose a health state? You're just giving your hacks?
reading until they're injured, so you could set a really strong endgame play up with something like Noed and Terminus and No Way Out. But outside of that, it's just generally a really good information add-on. You could place these signs in really common areas. The survivors have no idea they've stepped on them and no idea that you can see their aura at all times. All in all though, I think these add-ons not only make up for certain weaknesses that the HAG has, they also substitute quality of life perks that work really well on her, allowing her to use a lot more different builds. And of course, they create a lot of unique playstyles for players to tinker with. Now, obviously, I'm very biased, but I believe this would make HAG significantly more interesting. I'd actually enjoy playing against her because the experience would vary so significantly every time.
No, it wouldn't.
Any survivor within...
No, it would not. I'm looking at you right now. No, it wouldn't. I can guarantee you can show this to anybody who plays Survivor even a tiny bit, and they would say no to every single aspect of this. No, she is not more fun to play in this mode. You are the audacity to say that.
Builds, and of course, they create a lot of unique playstyles for players to tinker with. Now, obviously, I'm very biased, but I believe this would make HAG significantly more interesting. I'd actually enjoy playing against her because the experience would vary so significantly every time.
No.
Clearly, I'd enjoy playing as her much more often than I do now,
and that's
very rarely.
That's the main thing, I think.
Like my knowledge of maps and game sense would be heavily rewarded over what HAG is currently. Now, there's a good chance I've surely overlooked something horrible, a combination of add-ons or something that is completely game-breaking, but that's why teams create these types of things and not individuals. Regardless, I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments if I failed in some major way.
The entire video is a failure in every major way. This is Choy. You failed in this video, and this whole video was a mistake. You failed in a major way from the moment this video started down here. From the moment the video started, you failed. You just made one of the best characters in the game that is one of the most unfun characters to fight in the game. You may have detrimented the way she can camp. The only nerf this character has received is that she can't put traps near hooks anymore. You have buffed literally every other aspect of the character to be one of the best in slot in the entire game. You literally buffed everything, literally everything else about this character. You took away her ability to camp hooks and then buffed literally everything else. Literally everything else. You made one of the strongest characters in the game and said, but at least the add-ons are kind of weird, so that would make her fun to play against. Choy, you're a smart dude. How did you make this? Choy, you are an incredibly smart person. How do you think this is a good idea? Oh, I am legitimately confused. You are legitimately a very, very smart, and I love so many of your videos. And this was just a miss for 17 minutes straight. All of these ideas were bad. Like, all of them. Like, holy moly.
As far as her perks go, I've already reworked Hex Ruin and Hex the Third Seal in my perk rework video, so I'll just share those on the screen here. I think Devour Hope is great just how it is, so it definitely sucks. It will most likely be changed soon. Let me know what you guys think though. Is HAG really as boring as I believe she is? What would you rework about her? Am I dumb?
I like the Ruin idea.
You want to be reworked the most? And of course, thanks so much for watching and have a good one.
Yeah, that was bad. That was like incredibly bad. And I know I was saying that at the end there, but like Choy is an incredibly smart person. And has made really, really good videos over and over and over again. This was besides having the you know, you can't place traps around hook thing taken away, there was not a single thing about this video that I enjoyed. There was not a single change that I was for. That is he a HAG main? He's not. He said he only plays HAG sometimes. But like that's what it sounds like to me, Alice. It sounds like somebody like it sounds like this was made by a HAG main. I see what you're saying. It sounds like it was made by a HAG main to make her one of the best characters in the game. Like this character that he made is legitimately one of the best in the game. Right up there with like Nurse and Blight, making her one of the most oppressive killers in the game. This does not like at all. I feel like one of the main things that I noticed with this video is he goes a lot out of his way to try to set up things to try and like, you know, deal with Swifts. Because that's a big, like we were talking about at the beginning of the video, that's one of the big ways you counter HAG is by, you know, making, you know, be on comms with 4 people, and when somebody, you know, she can't teleport to a trap, send other people through the traps to disarm them. It seems like he made a lot of decisions to counter 4-man Swift on comms, but that's the strongest form of play in the game. So by directly countering the strongest form of play in the game and putting all these inbuilt things to counter the strongest thing in the game, you have made the strongest thing in the game, right? It's just, you just made like a super killer. And the notion that he thinks somehow that this is going to be fun to face is ridiculous. The only thing fun about this is going to be like just like how people play Starstruck Nurse. The only thing fun is just steamrolling people. That is going to be the only fun thing about it, is playing as the character and steamrolling people. That's the only fun it's going to be. This is 100% miss. This is not it. If this went live, I would not face this character. Like, it would be just as miserable as fighting Starstruck Nurse. It really would be, if not worse. This was a miss from the top to the bottom, and I'm really shocked that he put this out, you know? He's a really smart dude, and all of these changes were really bad. Sounds like something from DBD Reddit. Yeah, like somebody who's like on the DBD Killer Reddit who like really loves HAG made this. Yeah, that's really, oh my, that's really disappointing.